Hello again, whiskey friends. Thanks for joining me today, everybody. And if this is your first time here, hey, why not stick around, see if this is your vibe? And if you want, we could become whiskey friends for a little while. But on this review today, I am coming off, a hard loss to Jason C on Matt Madness. But even during that madness, I was like, just a couple hours before the show kicked off, I went to the store and I got lucky and I got my hands on the Hardins Creek. So this is a Jim Beam product, aged for 184 months, so essentially 14 years old. And at the time, I said this is either my celebration pour or it's my consolation prize. Ultimately, it's my consolation prize. Hey, maybe the universe just let me find this a couple hours before just to put a smile back on my face. So here I am. Shout out to David over here as well for all the amazing music that I plan to use in certain ways later. But for this pour, we're going to break this one down. It's 108 proof. It's Jim Beam. Oh, man, it is really good. It came out last year, but, I just got my hands on it this year. So for me, it's a 2023 bottle. So let's break it down together and let me go over why I'm so excited about this one. Thanks for joining, everybody. Let's kick off the show. All right. So this one, if you get lucky, you even find one with a 10. They had one without the 10, and I was like, can you go back and get me the one with the 10? Because, I got to have this on my shelf. This is a really cool presentation, though. So I'm going to pop this thing open here. So you got the aluminum tin. And then as you raise the bottle up, there's actually this like insert in the bottom there that like moves up as you grab it and it moves back down just to put it right in place. And it came with a little nice booklet too. This is a good release. So for this one, all right, get to know this bottle. When I am talking about Hardins Creek, I am talking about Jacob's Well in particular here. It's aged 184 months. So look at that number. And it's blue. It is not orange. It is not the 2-year one. There's one of these that's 2 years, and there's one of these that's 14 years. You want the 14-year one. It's got a cool leather strap across the top here. It's actually the strangest fiddly bit thing on a bottle that I've seen in a while, that's for sure. But it's got that leather strap with the little button just to keep that cork in place even tighter for some reason. And the proof on this one is 108. And I spent $170 on this one. Now, I also got it through a point system through one of the stores that I go to in Northern Kentucky. It's one of those point systems where you just have to accumulate so many points to be able to have the right to buy it. This one cost me 500 points. That's essentially usually how I use my points, is things that are like 200 to 400 points, 500 points. You get into the Buffalo Trace products, they want like 2,000 points and 2,500 points. They want like 6,000 points for the Coy Hill. I'd much rather just, poke at little bottles, in quotes, like this one, spend my points that way. And then I replenished half the points by just buying this thing. So really happy to get my hands on this. I have had it before. I've had samples of this from a few different whiskey friends. But this is the first time I've gotten to own it. So this was on my hit list because of those samples. And those samples informed me that as soon as I saw this thing, I had to buy it. All right, we've let this thing open up enough. This is a good one to let open up too. I mean, it's a 14-year-old pour. So gonna get the fancy glass treatment on this one. We'll break down the nose, break down the palate, and then go into the final scores. Thanks for joining me so far, everybody. Oh, wait, no, nose first. Man, I'm so excited. I wanted to taste it. Gotta go through the process here. So, what you'd expect from 14 years. I mean, just this rich, velvety, deep oak. And the oak on this one avoids kind of the antique or furniture varnish that you sometimes get when things start approaching that 15-year mark. It is just this velvety, nice oak. I- On this one too, I come back to these notes over and over again. Um, so I'm going to break it down in kind of segments here. All the notes I'm going to give don't necessarily make sense as a singular statement or one type of food that I try to combine things into. But distinctly, as I'm digging into it, I can get lemon bars that are covered in powdered sugar, blueberry muffins, and essentially maraschino cherries. So there's a cherry note there as well. So I guess rather than just being one thing, it's like walking into a fine pastry shop and smelling everything at once. Balancing out all of that sweetness, there is like a sea salt caramel. So you get a little bit of a brininess there, and the caramel emerges. Gosh, the note that I do end up getting left on though is that blueberry muffin. I continue to kind of come back to that one as well, and it's like that blueberry muffin that's got like the sugar crumble stuff on it too. Hmm. All right, delicious nose. All right, now I can get into it. Cheers, everybody. Oh, it's so good. So at 108 proof, it does coat very well. Um, Wish it had a little more heft to it, but ultimately the balance of this thing is so good that I kind of forgive that. But it did lose a little bit on the mouthfeel. Front of the palate, when it comes to the flavors that I get, it's a combination of that cherry note that I mentioned off the nose, and then the lemon bars too, which would be a combination of that lemon cream and the crumble at the bottom. When I bring everything together, though, there's almost a fizziness to it, and it almost reminds me of Dr. Pepper. So just kind of bring all those fruits together and, put the cream in there and a cola note in there and man, Dr. Pepper. I continue to go to that. If you've had this before, taste it for me, let it sit in your mouth, let me know about this Dr. Pepper note that I'm getting. Let me know if it's you're getting it too. Mid palate, it's the combination of the sweetness balancing with that velvety oak. The oak really does kick into full gear come mid palate. You really get everything in that 14 years there. But once again, it is just this deep, rich, velvety oak, not the furniture varnish. It just doesn't go that deep into it. But then the sweetness presents itself essentially as uh, a vanilla sweet cream. I'd almost want to equate it to if you've had macaroons, it doesn't taste like a macaroon, but if you were to separate like the macaroon, if you had like a vanilla macaroon and just eat that cream in the middle, that's what it reminds me of. So not the entire macaroon, but just that specific cream in the middle. And then there's a little bit of a chocolate note that emerges. That presents itself as more of a chocolate royal icing to me and still getting the cherry note. So ultimately, if you combine all the things that I said together, I guess you're just talking about a cherry cordial. So you get the chocolate, you get the cherry, and you get that cream. So cherry cordial about sums it up, but side by side and simultaneously almost being overwhelmed by that oak. It's just enough to punch through that sweet flavors, but that oak wants to smother everything as if they're playing rock paper scissors. And then the finish, I mean, the finish just brings it all together. Still getting the chocolate icing, still getting essentially the cherry cordial, when I combine the cherry note that's still there with the vanilla. The lemon bar does start to come back. I don't quite get the sweetness or that powdered sugar denseness that I did on the nose, but I'd still describe it as a lemon bar. Um, and then the oak. The oak is what I'm tasting right now as I'm still talking. And even then, it does dissipate into a sea salt caramel. So it mirrors the nose on the finish very well and very good. Whew. All right. One more sip, and then I'm going to go into the final scores. One great thing about doing these reviews is I can take one of the sips like that, and then as we go through the scores and all that, I can still enjoy the finish as I'm talking. So with this one, let me pull up the scores here. But man, was I impressed with this particular pour. I was impressed with it with the sample, and I'm impressed with it now. I am debating what to do with it before I pull these scores up because for me, this is a 2023 purchase, but it's also the highest scoring thing I've done in 2023. But is it a 2022 release or is it a 2023 release? For me personally, does it count for my 2023 top 10 of the year list? That's a debate here, but it's something for me to figure out later. So, with that spoiler warning, let's get into the score. So, with this on the site, we do break things down into a 3-component scoring system. That's a flavor score, which is worth 40%, an experience score, 50%, value score, 10%. Ultimately, flavor is just how enjoyable was it every step of the way. The experience score is that more technical score about the mouthfeel, about the length of the finish, the complexity of the palate and the nose. And then that value score, compared to other things on the market, how good was this per the price that was paid? As you can see here, yeah, this is the highest score of the year so far. At an 88, I mean, it just brings strong scores across the board. I maybe nitpick the front of the palate a little bit, maybe nitpick the mouthfeel a little bit, but ultimately, man, this pour brings it. So when it comes to a recommend, I mean, this is a 9 out of 10. You see this, you buy this. Like, the only thing would be it is $170, so you got to pick your punches there. But if you see this one, that's a punch to pick. Do I plan to buy another? If I find another one of these, I am going to buy it despite the price. This is a pour to just have and enjoy. I love it so much. Now, if I was to recommend any type of alternatives to this pour, I think it would be the Calumet 15 or 16. Those do come in a little cheaper, usually somewhere between 130 and 150. But that's essentially the zone that this thing hangs in, is something like the Calumet, especially now at the 16 year as those proofs get higher. I do want to blind this one against the Calumet just to kind of put that one to rest. That would be a good head to head. So keep an eye out for that video. But that's where this one ranks and scores. Just an excellent pour, the highest thing that I've scored so far. And now I've got the debate about, is it a 2022 pour or is it a 2023 pour? I think for me, it's 2023 all the way. This might be leading the pack of the greatest bourbons I've gotten to buy in 2023. Well, thank you for joining, everybody. Important reminder, it's the blue label and it has a 184 on it. Don't buy the 2-year one. Till next time, whiskey friends, I'll catch you later. Goodbye, everybody.